friends, we are together again. We're looking at the last section in chapter 7, section 7-8, and we're going to talk about something you've talked about since third grade, circle graphs. We're going to be doing some of the math behind it, so it should prove to be pretty interesting. Let's take a look at some vocabulary words today. The first vocab and the only vocab word we have is circle graph. It's a graphic used to display percentages of whole data sets. So the entire circle should represent 100%. Let's see if we can actually create a circle graph for ourselves. So here we go with example 1. We're going to construct a circle graph, but in order to do so, we're going to have some information, confirm that it adds up to 100%, and then we're going to take our percentages and we need to turn them into degrees because we're going to use a protractor to actually draw the angles to make sure that we have appropriate angles. And we start those angles from the center. And I know this is totally review, and I know you guys are like, we know how to do it, but let's just make sure we're all on the same page. So if we're going to change 19%, we want to figure out 19% of the full circular degree here that we have. Well, what's a full circle? How many degrees are in a full circle? And I hope you guys know this. It's 360. So the whole that we are comparing to would be 360 degrees as we calculate the amount of degrees. So what I'm going to do is create a new chart or a new column in our chart, and I'm going to call it the degree measure. I'll just put degree here. And what we'll do is we'll populate each row of this column with the corresponding degree. And so I'll show you how to do it. We'll do it over here. So we know that we're dealing with 19% out of 100, and this is for, of course, the guitar players, right? And we know that the whole that we're comparing it to is 360. We need to figure out how many degrees out of 360 will represent 19. So we're going to set up this proportion, do our cross canceling, solve for x. We'll do the same thing for the drums, right? We will put x over 360 for the drums, and we'll do 17 out of 100. We'll do the same thing for the piano, the same thing for the saxophone, vocals, and for others. And so I'm going to give you guys a little bit of time. You can pause me here because in a moment I'm actually just going to put the answers up on the screen. Okay, so there are our answers. Hopefully you got the same answers as I did. So 68.4, 61.2, 43.2, 25.2, 126 degrees, and 36 degrees. And that's from setting up proportions for each of these data points or for each of these percentages that are given. And we would do that. So the next thing that we need to do is use our protractor, which I know you guys know how to do, and fill in the circle. And we have several protractors in class for you to use. Once you were to do that, you should get a picture. I'm going to see if I can scroll up here and grab the picture that I took of this. Hopefully this will work. Come on, slide down with me. Come to where I want you. Okay, I'm going to have to do it this way. There we go. Slide it down right over top, and bam, we have it. This is what our picture looks like. This is what our degrees look like. And we recognize that the 35, I left them as 30 percentage points. The 35% is located here. This would be the vocals, and you can see that right there. And this is the 10% portion, which is the other, and the 19% is guitar, the 17%, which we know to be here, is the drums, and we're telling it by this value, and the 12% is there. I know I kind of cheated. I didn't do it by hand, but I had such a terrible time figuring out how am I going to show the kids how to use a protractor with this. It's not working. So if you have trouble using a protractor, if it still is kind of uncomfortable, let me know. But right now, the takeaway that I want you to get from this is being able to definitely do the calculations to figure out what the degree measures are. Let's go ahead and look at this next example. Here in example 2, we're going to construct a data circle from the graph, but this time notice we are not given percentages. So we're looking at different values that someone could use, different ways that someone could fuel their home: bottled gas, electricity, fuel, oil, pipe, gas, wood, and other, that they could warm their home, that is. And so what we would do is we need to we could go to percentages, but I like to go straight to degrees because, well, let's do degrees and then we'll do percentages. So how can we calculate percentages? The total number of homes that are being used for data would represent 100%. So the first thing that we need to do is to add up the number of homes that are being, or the number of people or number of homes that are being used to calculate this information. So go ahead, take a chance to add it up, and I'm going to give you the answer in just a second. So hopefully you guys figured out we have 200 homes total that we're looking at down here, okay? So 200 homes total, that should be pretty simple to figure out the percentage rate. So we're going to figure out the percentage, then we're going to have to figure out the degree, and that way we're going to be able to build our circle awesomely. So what we would do, our pie chart, I should say, awesomely. So what we're going to do is start off with the 12, and we need to change it to degrees. So if I know we're talking about 12 out of 200 homes, that's equal to x out of 100. If this isn't floating your boat or you're trying to figure out a different way, if you prefer, I just like the percent proportion, but if you prefer to use a percent equation, that's totally fine, and that works out very nicely as well. So we're going to cross multiply, do our thing, and we can see that we could actually calculate this on our own. We realize that x is equal to 6%. So in this case, hopefully this green shows up better here. We're dealing with 6% in this case. If we look at 64 over 200, x over 100, clearly, since this is cut in half, that's why we realize the 6% here. Since this is cut in half, this will be cut in half, so the percentage will be 32%. And since we see that relationship, we can actually exploit it all the way throughout. Of course, if you need to set up the proportion equation, or you need to set up the percent equation or percent proportion, that's fine. But I think you guys should be able to see that this is 9%. This would be 50%. This would be 2%. And finally, we have 1%. If it was really hard for you to see this, not visually see this because this is terrible, but if it was hard for you to understand this or follow, let's talk, because this is a part of finding the percent using mental math. And so part of it is we saw a relationship and we were able to do that. So we can talk about that a little bit later. So now that we've done that, I'm going to choose a bit of a better color. Let me see. Let's go back to white. What we need to do is now we should calculate the degree measure that's going to be associated with it. And we remember, how did we calculate the degree measures? We could have used 12 out of 200, right? Because it is a ratio is equal to x out of 360, right? Because we just want the same ratio. Or we could use the percentage. That's cool. 6 out of 100 is equal to x out of 360. Right? So we're comparing percent over 100 is equal to part over whole, just kind of switched it around there. So either way, I think that you guys can do it. I'm going to give you some time to calculate, and I'm just going to fill in the chart. So take a moment, pause me here, and figure out what the degree measures would be given the percentages. Okay, so there are our answers. You see that we have our degree measures over here in white, our percentages here in green, and the original values here. Let's talk a little bit about what we did, and I think you guys know how to already construct a circle graph, so I'll allow you to do that. At this time, we've got 12, 64, 18, 104, and 2. We added it together to figure out the total number. We've got 200 homes total. So everything we're going to compare as we come up with the percentages would be out of 200. When we did that, we realized 12 out of 200 is equal to x out of 100. When we just were trying to figure out the number of the percentage of families that use bottled gas, we realized that this was really a super easy percentage to calculate, because the relationship between 200 and 100 is 1 multiplied by a half. So we just multiplied each of the amounts by a half. So we were able to quickly see that 12 was 6%, 64 was 32%, 18 was 9, 150, so forth and so on. Then we realized we really need the degree measure to actually draw the picture of the graph. So what we did is we took the same percent proportion that we used before, though we could have used a percent equation. We used a percent proportion, and we put 6 over 100 is equal to x over 360. But we recognize that there are several ways that we could have gotten to this answer. And finally, we got these. Hopefully yours look like mine. If they don't, I could be wrong. Let me know, but I think I'm right. So check it again and then talk to me. All right, so now that we have this, we can draw a beautiful graph. And if you'd like me to draw the graph for you, just give me a moment and we'll do that. Okay, so I just overlaid this picture, and I'm going to see if I can get a better view of, let's see if I can shrink it a little bit. So this physical graph is kind of what your graph should look like. Maybe your pieces might be placed in a different way. I can't even get this thing to scroll down, people. Let me scroll up. Look at that. Genius. Okay, so your graph should look like this. I just wanted to point out that even though this says it looks like it says 21. It refers to section 2 and section. This part is 2%, this is 1%, this is 9%. And then for simplicity's sake, which doesn't make it that simple, the color coding is over here at the side. And I'm sure you guys may not do the color coding piece. You might just write it in, which is perfectly fine. And again, I know I'm not showing you how to use a protractor because it's kind of difficult in this format, but I'm happy to show you how to use one if you've forgotten how to do it. All right, so that really concludes what we want to talk about in this section. So far, the focus is really on making sure you understand how to go from information, data given, then moving that information into conceptualizing what the percentage would be, and then being able to take that percent and turn it into degree. You can go from the information straight to the degree. I don't have a problem with that, but oftentimes with pie charts, you're going to have percentages listed on the outside, so that percentage step is pretty helpful, and it's better to get it done in the middle of the process instead of waiting to the end to go back and figure it out. All right, good people. I look forward to talking to you soon. Have an excellent day. Let me know how I can help. I look forward to seeing you. Bye-bye.